Hi everyone, let's talk about Last Bastion. If you're wondering where the game and everything is, I just did a playthrough. It's in the description and stuff. You can see me go all the way through it. So, I have not played Ghost Stories, which Last Bastion is a reimagining of, re-implementation of, however you want to look at it. It's like a special rather than just do a deluxe 10th anniversary edition. Do kind of a new version, a new theme, streamline the gameplay, things like that. But I just have to take Repost Productions' word for it because, I haven't played Ghost Stories, but I always knew its reputation as this fiendishly difficult cooperative game, but just never got around to it. So we've played Last Bastion now, though. And on our first game for it, we got very lucky, it turns out. That it wasn't easy, it was still a bit of a challenge, but we did make it through. And since we found out that maybe if you've seen the playthrough, spoilers, but it's not that easy most of the time. And this is just, I only played it on normal difficulty. It didn't fancy turning it up after we won because it wasn't a breeze for us. And since then, it's made us think, maybe we need to go down to novice mode. But just for the game itself, presentation, absolutely fantastic. I'll say that, the painted minis and things were a promo. I'm not sure how available those are, but just the normal minis, which the minecart and everything still are. Very, very nice stuff. The Grasp of Evil tokens as well, I think, are a really nice touch, especially. Nice custom dice, tokens and stuff. Artwork, all very thematic and expressive. Works really, really well on the table, I think. And everything's got a nice variety of abilities in various combinations. There's probably about 10, 15 symbols you need to get used to. But, they come out through various combinations on the characters. Some will only do things when they come into play. Some will only do bad things when they leave play. You might get a little reward for defeating some of them. And then some will do nasty things every turn. Or, some will mean, you can't do a really important thing, can't play equipment tokens until that monster is defeated. But it's good because it gives you all these variables to think about. In that, while the combat is based on dice, you can give yourself a leg up. You can use things like the standard or the bard's ability if the bard's in the game, or you can stock up on equipment tokens and things. You can give yourself a good standing in the fight. You can make it so that you will automatically win the combat, and maybe just if you roll well, you just won't have to spend as many things as if you'd rolled badly. And I think that does add an element to it. That's I've complained about things like that in the past, and I think that it's at a level where you can do enough. You've got these options, and sure, sometimes you are going to be stuck. You're not going to be close enough to something. You are just going to have to wing it and hope that you roll and just cross your fingers. That's definitely the case sometimes, but it's never just the case that you are going to go into something and you don't have to commit these equipment tokens straight up and stuff and then find that, I rolled them, I didn't need to spend all of that. Or, I spent all of my stuff and, we worked all together and we did all this stuff and then the dice said you lose. That doesn't happen. You have got, you've got some control over what you want to do. You can do some planning and you can try and gather some resources beforehand to try and make it through particularly difficult combats. And I like that the combination of these abilities and the position of the things, if there's two weak enemies that you've managed to place in a corner, you can go in a corner and try and fight both of those. I really like those elements to it. And I think that elevates it above other games with randomness that, Arkham Horror the card game, that have these beautiful cooperative things, but then for me, end up spoiling it, adding that element of let's put an option where you were never going to do this no matter what you planned. Last Bastion doesn't do that. It gives you enough control and maybe, like in a lot of these cooperative games, maybe the illusion of control to an extent that, it feels like you have got this under control. It feels like you have got a handle on all of this, and very, very quickly things can spiral out of control and go sour in that, sometimes it's just going to be a harder game for you in, if you're playing with fewer than 4 players, in the cards that get removed at the start of the game, it might make a certain colour more dominant if you get unlucky, or certain abilities might be left in there. Like, you might end up with all of the abilities that just keep stopping you being able to spend equipment tokens. But the ordering and everything can matter as well, that you might get extremely unlucky with a game where you just keep getting enemies that draw more enemies. That is going to be a factor. That's, the ordering of that deck, the look of the draw of some of it is going to be a factor as well. That's usually... I am the player between Rachel and myself that I play most of my games with. She's pretty accepting of pretty much any of these things. I'm usually the one complaining about dice or too much luck or something. I don't think that is a factor here. It's certainly present, but I definitely felt like we were puzzling it out. We were trying to think of a way around what are the obstacles that are being placed in front of us. And yeah, it can be very satisfying when you manage to come up with that thing. And sometimes, yeah, the game just does pile on you. It's a game where you can sometimes feel like you're in control, but you know that it's very, very short-lived. It's not something like... It's not got kind of the flow of Pandemic where you can take a breather for a little bit and you know that you're kind of sorted and then things go wrong and you know that now we need to get back into action. It's kind of... There's a very, very short respite period if you ever get one in Last Bastion. It's very much in the mode of just piling on as much as possible. If it's a 4-player game, enemies are coming out every single turn, and they're coming out every player's turn in a game with fewer than 2 players, but... yeah, every one of these boards is getting a card every turn unless a board is full, and then you're getting a negative ability. And that's that helps weigh on your decisions as well. That, we need to go over here and sort this because such and such is going to lose a health or not going to be able to move, or we're going to have to roll that corruption die if their board remains full. But maybe we leave it full and take that hit because it means new enemies are not going to come out while that board is full. Yeah, that's another cool thing that's on top of it. But yeah, it is a game where it feels like it is just piling on, and even enemies that you've left out there, they're usually doing something nasty. They're putting these Grasp of Evil things out, and you know you can only have 3 out on that central bastion before you lose the game, or you've only got so much health you can lose before you lose the game. And yeah, it's very much a game of just trying to stay afloat while the game barrages you with stuff. Yeah, it's definitely a tough going a lot of the time in it. I'll say that I feel like I've only played this 2 players. Now, solo, I've kind of read up online a little bit about it because I thought after we'd played our game of it, thinking about it solo, the biggest thing that kind of holds you back is this grid, which I really like that system that you've got to think about your positioning for the action that you want to take or the monsters that you want to fight, and planning ahead and how you're going to maneuver in this grid and how you're going to position yourselves is a great thing. But with it being this 3x3 grid and you can only move 1 space per turn, that then creates a bit of a problem in that it can take you more than 1 turn to get to where you need to go to really stop something. And yeah, in a 4-player game, the person best suited to something, it might take them a while to get over there, but there will be 4 of you. There's more enemies coming out, sure, and the deck is bigger, but you can probably you can get to an action that you need to be probably just in 1 turn. Whereas if there's 2 of you, it can be a struggle sometimes. If you've just happened to need to go to a certain corner of the board and now something's ended up over there and you need to race over there now, but it's going to take you 2 turns, and so that's going to mean you're really going to be at a disadvantage. Yeah, it feels like it's going to be... I don't know if the overall game is going to be easier, but certainly maneuvering across this board is going to be easier just because there's more people on it. In a solo game, of course, there's only 1 of you. And so it feels to me, obviously, I've only played it 2-player, but people have mentioned on the Board Game Geek forums as well, this issue that if something just happens on the other end of the board, it's going to take you 2 turns, and there's nothing you can do about that. You can try and get more call to arms tokens, but yeah, that's kind of the same for all play camps. You just got to hope for those. If the enemies come out, you can try and defeat them, great. But yeah, and if this board here, the blue board, fills up with enemies, then the negative effect when that comes around is that a player needs to forfeit their next movement. And yeah, that could be the person playing the blue board, or if it's a neutral board, it's any player's choice. In a solo game, that's you. So that's another kind of, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a thing to be most wary about, because if that happens to you and you don't have a call to arms token, the game is done for you. You are not allowed to move anymore, because this is going to stay full unless you're next to it and you're able to kill an enemy, or you're on the blood sacrifice space or something. If you're not in that position and this board is full, then the game is over for you. So that's those couple of things. Yeah, I wouldn't want to play it solo, just with one character anyway. I would want at least two people to be able to do things, because you can get into the game we won. We were in a really nice rhythm of one character doing most of the fighting and maneuvering around, and one person being the more support character, still doing a bit of fighting, so it didn't overwhelm us, but being able to run around and change the standard to whichever the dominant color was on the board, or going and trying to keep hold of the Grasp of Evil tokens, making sure they didn't build up too much, or putting a net on a particularly nasty ability so it didn't come out again. It's going to be, I always say this, but the playthrough should give you the best idea of whether or not it will be for you, because it's a game that puts a lot of pressure on you almost throughout. It's pretty constant. It's punishing you, and between luck of the draw with enemy placement and dice in combat, there is a luck factor in it. So they are the things that I would think would put people off about it. But I really enjoyed the presentation. Sometimes it just doesn't work out for you, but I feel like it is a delicious puzzle working out how you are going to maneuver this grid. I wonder if it's going to be easier if we get to play it with 4 players, in the sense that we just have more control over where people are on this grid. We just have more bodies on there, and so more actions are immediately available to us because of that. But yeah, I've enjoyed our plays. It's turned out to be as hard as people have said, because the idea when I met with Repos at Essen, the idea was streamline the gameplay but still make it as difficult as Ghost Stories had its reputation for. It made me want to play Ghost Stories as well, to see the differences and play this formidable game. There is as well, I saw mentioned on the Board Game Geek forums where someone was saying for the solo it's really difficult. Rado mentioned that Ghost Stories had a variant for fewer than 4 players where you got special extra tokens that would go in the middle, and you could do extra actions with these tokens in a different way to the call to arms tokens. And when people spent them, they went back into the middle, and if you took the middle action, you would be able to get more of these tokens back. Seems like something that's been streamlined out to make it easier to learn, but that might be worth investigating, especially if you know what those tokens did in Ghost Stories. It might be worth investigating and adding to this, because it's very difficult and every little bit helps. But anyway, I hope the playthrough gave you the better idea than any of this did. That's Last Bastion. Bye everyone.